Okay, we are now on to the second session of this cover-up piece I'm doing. We originally did the outline of just the center part on this, and as you can see I drew on the extensions, the rest of the wings on both sides. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and start finishing up the line work right here. And as you can see, I was just focusing on the perimeter basically. And that's basically just simply because of the amount of detail I put in there. I don't want to draw too much initially because it is hand drawn on there. And the more drawing you have on there, you know, the bigger chance you have of it rubbing off and the more work it's going to be. So it's better to stick to a very basic shape initially just to get you know, the box, if you will, the outside, everything done, and then once that's on there, it's not going anymore. Then you can play around with the detail on the inside. You don't have to worry so much about, you know, the placement if you have to redraw anything on there. But so again, I'm going to start in the lower right hand portion of this and then work my way into it that way. And again, you want to be very careful just to not smear it too much. So you want to try to keep your fingers away from the actual line work when you're doing your stretching. But as you can see, I have a nice thin little layer of A&D on the skin, and that's going to give me a little bit of a protective barrier between my finger and the actual ink on there, keep it from smearing. And again, as you notice, I've said it before, and I tend to do it, you know, fairly often, is line building. That's where you you don't necessarily have to pull one smooth, continuous, clean line. You can kind of work at it and build it up a little bit. And depending on the piece you're doing, it can actually add a little bit of character to the line without, you know, becoming a mess. And certain times, you know, that actually makes a big difference in the quality of your line work, and it makes it a little more stylish. This one, I'm really not going to do too much line building because it is a relatively smooth, straight flowing line. But I kind of want to just lightly work at it a little bit in some spots because I do, even though I have about a 99% good base to work from with the drawing on the skin, I do tend to kind of tweak it just subtly in little tiny spots as I'm actually tattooing. So what I do is initially, as I'm following the line, I do a relatively light pass, and then I'll kind of stop and then, you know, kind of glance at it and work the line into the exact perfect position that I want it to. You know, it's just basically just a little trick to kind of tweak it just that fine little last 1% to get it exactly where you want it. Now, line work heal is relatively quick as opposed to doing an actual complete tattoo from beginning to end in one session. As you can see, this was about approximately a week, slightly less, I believe, in between the time I actually did the tattoo and this session now. And if it were actually a complete tattoo and done with shading or color or whatever all inside there, I probably wouldn't necessarily be able to go into it very extensively because the skin would be healing. There'd be a lot of unhealed skin on there, and I would be in danger of re-damaging a part of the tattoo that's not quite healed completely yet. But again, you know, line work is a relatively small amount of area you're covering, so you know it does heal pretty quick. But again, the healing skin is so minimal that, you know, you're really not going to be able to do any more damage to it that would, you know, affect the healing of it, which will actually it will kind of help you in speeding up the process if you're doing something in multiple sessions or large scale pieces. You know, it shortens the time in between the sessions the client has to wait.